by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis. Buddy, guys, fellas, it's Friday, and we're 6 days away from Razorback football, but we got a great weekend in front of us. How are we feeling on a Friday?
I feel great. Yeah, I mean, we do have a great weekend in front of us. In 24 hours, I'm going to be feet propped up on the couch watching a little Florida State, Georgia Tech. It's here, man. I literally can't wait. I just don't want to do it anymore. Let's go.
In 24 hours, I will be dog cussing Haynes King after his third pick of the afternoon, costing me my Georgia Tech bet. But yeah, we are officially less than a week away. Like yesterday when we did the show, we weren't quite inside of a week because technically, game kicks off at 6:30 and all that. We are the countdown is really counting down, as they say.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Andrew, I already took the bet on Saracen, the prop of Haynes King over 2 interceptions. So,
yeah, there you go. We'll be celebrating while also kind of being like,
Yeah, well, it's good. It's great to have college football that we will talk about, and we'll have some fun with that when it comes to the bets and everything too. But we'll have some other things to mention and get into some, college football, Razorback football, as well as having some fun with some other storylines too. I got to ask though, real quick, Andrew. So, are you doing the Woody Page thing with the sign in the back of your thing? Just it is what it is. Is that kind of what you're going for?
So that that's. I didn't put that up today. That's been there for a minute. But no, I mean, I'm not going for a Woody Page thing. A long time ago when I was still doing the bombastic all the time, someone commented and was like, Andrew just keeps saying it is what it is. Like he loves saying that. And there was like 3 or 4 people that were kind of getting on me about that. And Hillary made that kind of sarcastically. And I was like, I'll just roll with it.
All right. Well, I guess it's the first time I've noticed it because if you've had it up every time, I have not noticed it. So, but still.
Pay more attention to me, John.
Well, hey, listen, if you're probably going to say that today, you're probably going to use that phrase today because we are going to talk a little Razorback football and, of course, get into a particular thing that people are already, I'm sure, very upset by the headline, but that's okay because listen, after people started giving us crap for it, or I guess should say giving me crap for it because I'm the one that creates the headlines or whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to go all in and not even care about it. I'm just going to name it what I'm going to name it. And then if you want to actually get mad at us, then actually listen and watch the show to see if that's actually what we're talking about, which we are in a way. But, when it gets to this point in time of the year, mentioning less than a week, there are a lot of different outlets that start putting out their predictions, their rankings, top 10, top 25, top 50, top whatever. And everyone has their own opinion on it. We've done our own season predictions, for instance, on InsideArkansas.com, game by game. And it's just what happens. But Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, for those of you who are unaware, they have a lot of really interesting formulas and ways of figuring out, okay, who's ranked where, who grades out where and everything. And they came up with a pretty direct, but a pretty interesting list where it's just ranking all 70 Power 5 starting quarterbacks in 2024. Just straight up ranking all 70. Now, we know that Taylen Green is the quarterback for Arkansas, and last time I checked, Arkansas is a Power 5 team. So where does he rank? Well, there. He ranks 49th in the country among Power 5 starting quarterbacks. And there'll be some other quarterbacks that we'll mention in this list and talk about. But guys, when you saw this and saw that Taylen Green was listed there, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, I think I texted you guys right away, and I said I thought that was actually higher than I thought he would be, just on the surface, because at the end of the day, we are talking about a guy whose track record up to this point has not been that great, especially last season. I mean, he did lose his job at Boise State. Now he's in the SEC. Do we all believe that he's going to be a way better version of himself in the system under Bobby Petrino? Yeah, absolutely. But based on what we've seen so far, it's projection right now. It really is. But then if you go a little bit deeper and look at it, the only 2 SEC quarterbacks he's ranked ahead of is Vandergriff at Kentucky, and then Sellers at South Carolina. So he's 14th out of SEC quarterbacks. I remember a couple years ago when I think it was when we were at 24/7 Sports, Andrew, when somebody wrote the article that had KJ Jefferson ranked as, one of the bottom quarterbacks in the SEC, and people went nuts about it. What I'll say about this with Taylen Green is I do think going into the season, it's fair. It's fair going into it. Can he outperform those expectations or where they have him right now? 100%. I think he probably will. But for where he's at going into the season on this list, I don't think anybody could really be that mad about it.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect him to be super high on this list. I've also seen a lot of lists from like random Twitter accounts and whoever ranking SEC quarterbacks, and he's usually in that like 12 to 15 range. And in everything you said, I believe Curtis, where like we don't necessarily think he's going to be like a bottom tier SEC quarterback or like, we think he's going to be better than what he showed at Boise State last year. But I agree with what you said, where it's like you kind of got to go off the track record. And when you just compare him to some of these other guys, some of which are like returning starters, some of which have started at this level and stuff like that, like it's not super surprising. And so I'm not going to be the one making those arguments of like, no, he needs to be higher than so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And we can kind of argue for a few here and there. Like I think Shapen at Mississippi State is one where it's like, I think that guy stinks. And so, yeah, I'd probably argue for Taylen over him, but I'm not going to like go out on a limb and be like, he's way better than Garrett Nussmeier, who hasn't played a ton at LSU, but I'm just like, we don't know. There's so many variables, so much unknown here. And so, yeah, I didn't expect him to get a ton of love on this list. And frankly, I feel like I know Hawk fans really want all their guys to be respected and all that, but it's like, you kind of just got to accept it. When you bring in a quarterback who's super unproven from a lower level, you can't expect people to be like, oh, yeah, this guy's about to light it up in the SEC. Now, will he? Who knows? We'll see. We think he's got a chance to be pretty good, but I am definitely not surprised by the range he's at on this list.
Who is the dude from Vanderbilt? Like immediately when I saw where Taylen was, I was like, okay, well, how many SEC quarterbacks is he above? And I scrolled and I found the other guys. I was like, I don't see the dude from Vanderbilt. And then I went up and he was actually higher. I have no idea who that guy is. No idea who it is. Was he their dude last year?
What's his name?
Is Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember Vanderbilt had they had a really decent quarterback battle a couple of years. Mike Wright, who Arkansas actually offered, who I believe is the last person on this list. I forget where he ended up at, but he's actually dead last on this list. They had him and a freshman. I forget that kid's name was like Swain or something like that. And like Vanderbilt actually had a decent quarterback situation. I think both those guys transferred out though. So who knows?
Well, first off, if your name is Diego and you're a quarterback, then I already am going to be interested in what you do with this season. Like, because that's just phenomenal. But he was the New Mexico State quarterback last year. And he was apparently one of the big reasons why New Mexico State upset Auburn last season. So I think they're probably giving him a little bit of a nudge in that, and the fact that he rushed for over 1,000 yards and also threw 22 touchdowns. So, but still, when I saw this 49th, I agree with everything you guys said, because I believe you have to earn it. And, if you're just looking at the numbers and if you're just looking at what Taylen Green did last year, Boise State and everything, and Arkansas' situation, because let's be honest, I believe Arkansas was picked 14th in the SEC at SEC Media Days. So you're talking about having a new quarterback who transferred from a Boise State, which is not a Power 5 team technically, to go to Arkansas, where he had not the greatest stats at Boise State. So yeah, if you're just looking at it from that perspective, of course, this is where it's going to be. And that's where it's like all of our predictions and all the things we talk about, like if you're looking at it objectively, I don't disagree with this. I don't disagree with it at all. But the question becomes, and this is kind of the next question I want to ask you guys, where do you think, and you can do a range, but where do you think Taylen Green ends up at the end of the season? Like, and I know it's like kind of looking into the mind of Pro Football Focus, but do you believe he ends up being like much higher up? Do you think it's about right? Like at the end of the year, if they were to redo this list, where do you think Taylen Green ends up?
Yeah, that's I think that's what matters the most, obviously. And just in the perfect world, it would be, it almost makes more sense for a quarterback who lost his job at Arkansas to wind up transferring to Boise State and get the starting job than it is for the opposite of that to be the case. And then for you to really be like, oh yeah, this is it. But we know that there is a lot more that goes into that. And it's about the system that you're in and your supporting cast and the development and the resources you have. For example, I'm sure we'll bring it up. Like KJ Jefferson is very high on this list. He wasn't very good at Arkansas last year, but I do like the fit of where he's at now. And I think he could get a lot, closer back to where he was the years prior at Arkansas at UCF. So I agree with that. But as far as Taylen Green, where he's starting on this list, sure. Like I'm not going to make a big argument about that, but I will say, I think he's going to be higher. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as say, oh no, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. There's some damn good quarterbacks in this league, but in that top 10-ish range, I could see that for sure. And if he does that, then I think Arkansas's got a shot at having a decent season and making a bowl.
Yeah. What are there 70 Power 5 programs? Is there 70 quarterbacks on this list?
Yep.
I think in that 30 to 35 range is kind of like in my brain where I view him. I think he's around middle of the pack in terms of the SEC, which, by the way, that may sound like a knock. It's not. I mean, if you're the 7th best quarterback in the SEC, you're a damn good quarterback. You're 7-8 range. I think he's going to kind of be in that 30-35 range in terms of Power 5 quarterbacks. With Taylen, I ultimately feel like, I mean, we've all seen Taylen multiple days at practice and the spring game and all that. You see kind of very different versions of him. There's been days, I mean, you saw him in the spring game, which, by the way, right after I sent y'all this list, I actually watched the highlights of the spring game. You see him on certain days, and he looks like one of the most talented players in the country and a guy where he can be a real difference maker at any program. But then you see times where, I mean, there were scrimmages in the spring where he would throw 7-8 straight incomplete passes and really struggle to fit it in tight windows and stuff like that. So I think throughout this season, there's going to be weeks where he looks awesome. There's going to be weeks where he looks like a little bit of a more limited guy that Arkansas has to kind of work around. And so ultimately, I think he's going to end up being in that middle of the pack range. But I do think like anyone trying to definitively be like, oh, he certainly needs to be way higher, I think that's a little wild. But anyone who's also like definitively like, oh no, he clearly sucks and is not going to like, I don't think anybody can confidently say that when there's so many unknown variables and you just never know how these things are going to play out. But I also think that the KJ Jefferson aspect here, I know a lot of people are really upset about that, but to your point, Curtis, is like, how can you objectively look at what these guys have produced to their point in their careers and be like, yeah, you should have Taylen Green above KJ Jefferson, who is, PFF is who's doing this list. KJ was one of the top 10 quarterbacks graded from PFF for 2 straight years. Like a pretty large sample size of being one of the best quarterbacks in the country by their rankings and all that. So yeah, I expected him to be much, much higher on this list. And like, if we're just going off of what they've done to this point, it's a no brainer. But yeah, I do think he's going to end up being closer to that middle of the pack. And frankly, I feel like KJ might end up being around that middle of the pack as well.
Well, and to go to the point of, like you see there on the list, KJ Jefferson was listed at 16th among all Power 5 quarterbacks. And, the thing about Taylen is that so many times, I'm not saying it's like this all the time, but so many times when these lists come out, and if one of a player that is you're on your team or whatever, if they're ranked lower than what you believe or what you want them to be, you will take that as they think this guy sucks. Like, oh, they think Taylen Green sucks. And it's not always that case. In some cases, it's like what you guys said. It's just, hey, looking at the evidence, because that's what we try to do. We try to look at evidence, or at least the evidence that's presented to us, and try to make and draw logical conclusions. So we try to do. And if you look at the evidence, what facts, like what it is right now, that is what you see from Taylen Green is at that list. I don't think that this is Pro Football Focus saying, Taylen Green actually sucks. He's actually just the 14th best quarterback in the SEC. He's not any good. It's just, hey, comparing him to everybody else, to these other quarterbacks on this list, that's about where he ranks. And it's the same thing with a KJ Jefferson. Yeah, KJ Jefferson did not have a great year last year, at least comparatively speaking. But if you look at the evidence, he was a starter in the SEC for 3 seasons. And 2 of those 3 years, his numbers were really good. Completion percentage was good. He had sub 3,000 yards, but still efficient, didn't throw a lot of picks, won some games.
And life is easier on him now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, that's just, you got to look at the evidence, and that's where your conclusions come from. And I'm glad you said it too, Andrew, about where Taylen Green's going to end up? Because I believe kind of the same thing. I think Taylen Green is going to end up probably in the 30 range, somewhere in there. Because I still believe that with as a Petrino quarterback, you're always going to have a certain amount of numbers. Like you're still going to have certain amount of percentages, certain amount of touchdowns, because you're going to pass the ball. You're going to pass the ball effectively and pass the ball a lot. And in fact, as part of our question of the day today, I asked everybody on Twitter saying, where do you think Taylen Green will end up being ranked among SEC quarterbacks at the end of the season? Not going into it, but at the end of the season. And I just did it in the range, a top 4, the next 4, the next 4, the bottom 4. And 57% of Razorback fans, because I'm pretty sure most of the people who follow me have him 5th through 8th. That's where they believe he's going to end up, which I think is fair. So if he's 5th through 8 in the SEC, I think that's about right, where you'll be in that 30th range. And guess what? That's okay. Like, that's not oh, well, then in that case, why are we even playing? Like, no, that's pretty solid. And that's pretty good. I'd sign up for number 30 quarterback right now if I could. I'd do that right now for Taylen Green.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. I mean, I really do. I think that's about what you're looking for there. It's reasonable expectations. I think it's a reasonable starting point for him. Obviously, you'd like to see him a lot higher, but we've talked about all the circumstances. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody with a lick of sense, going into the year is saying, oh no, Arkansas is 10-11 win team and they're going to make the college football playoff. Well, if you have one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, then in a lot of cases you would do that. So yeah, I think middle of the pack's about that's about right and what you're looking for.
I also think we can't kid ourselves here. And look, guys, we've been pretty high on Taylen Green for the most part. Like all off season, if you've been paying attention to our streams and listening to what we've been saying, we've been kind of propping the guy up and thinking, hey, this guy's got a chance to be a lot better than he was at Boise State. I just don't understand how people aren't able to take a step back and look at this from a little bit of a objective, nuanced lens. Like KJ Jefferson, as bad as he struggled last year, which the numbers really weren't as bad as we remember them as. I don't understand how, if you don't see him, a guy like him who's been as productive in his career as he is, going to the Big 12 and going to a Gus Miles-on offense, of course he's going to have a lot of respect nationally. I mean, it's a 3-year start in the SEC who's going to a worse conference and is playing for a much better play caller than he played for last year. Hog fans this time last year would have been throwing fits if KJ Jefferson weren't listed in the top 20 of all these lists. And so, yeah, I mean, if you just, like you said, Curtis, you do the math of a guy who struggled to keep his job in the Mountain West coming to the SEC, it's not a surprise that nationally he's not going to get a ton of love. Now, if I'm not saying I believe this, but for people out there that believe that Taylen Green's going to be better than KJ Jefferson, you're not crazy for that's not a wild thing to think. But I just don't see how nationally you expect other people to be expecting that coming into the year.
And also, too, to your point, Andrew, the people that are looking at this objectively, I think, have some sense in it. But when you're talking about, you don't understand how people could look at this or what are you seeing or whatever. I know why they all think that. I know why so many Razorback fans think that, oh, Taylen Green is going to be this awesome because of BMFP, because of Bobby Petrino. That's the thing. If this was still a Dan Enos offense, I don't think anybody, in fact, I would even make the argument that if it was Taylen Green coming into the Dan Enos offense and Dan Enos was the OC and everything, people would be like, oh, this guy sucks. Why did we get this quarterback? But because it's Bobby Petrino, it's like, oh, well, Bobby Petrino says it's great. And look who he is. We love that guy. So Taylen Green's going to be awesome. So it's almost not even a Taylen Green thing. It's a Bobby Petrino thing. That's where the love comes in.
Do you guys ever look at the coaches' confidential stories that come out from the different outlets? Like in the preseason, they'll anonymously interview coaches about teams or players or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about, at least?
Oh, yeah.
Athlon does a really good one, usually.
Athlon does a really good one. ESPN did one that dropped the other day where they were asking coaches to give anonymous quotes about quarterbacks. And so I'll read to you guys and we don't know who it was, but some coach in the SEC. Here's what they had to say about Taylen Green. I'll read you the whole excerpt. It says the Razorbacks are resetting their offense, entering a make or break season for Coach Sam Pittman. Although new offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino would generate most of the intrigue, Green transfers in from Boise State, which he helped to a Mountain West title in 2023. An ESPN 3-star recruit from Texas, Green has struggled with accuracy at times, 59.4% career completions, but brings dual threat ability to the Hogs with 17 rushing touchdowns in 2 seasons. The anonymous quote from a coach: "It will be interesting with Arkansas because they put all their chips in Bobby and in that quarterback," an SEC coach said. "Bobby's a really good coordinator, but I don't know that quarterback's as good as they think he is." That's the quote from a coach in the league.
I mean, I'm not surprised by it either, because it's I like the anonymous things. I wish everyone wants their names to it, but you won't get those quotes if anyone has to put their name to it. But yeah, like that's I think a question, and you can get you'll get an answer from Bobby Petrino, and I think he's even answered this question before. But it does make me wonder, okay, why Taylen Green? Bobby Petrino, I'm not saying, he could have gone out and tried to get Dylan Gabriel, okay, but you weren't going to. But like, why Taylen Green? I would understand if his numbers were insane over at Boise State, but they weren't. I can understand if he was at a major college football program and had success with them, but he wasn't. Why Taylen Green of the entire landscape of transfer quarterbacks, which is a lot, or even the quarterbacks on the roster when Petrino arrived, Jacoby Criswell, those, like, why Taylen Green of all quarterbacks?
I think it comes down to, one, obviously Bobby tried to recruit him when he was at Missouri State, thought he was going to pull a fast one and get this 3-star to come to Missouri State. But I think it really comes down to the football IQ aspect. And when those two have had conversations, it seems like they're somewhat in sync. And ultimately, I think Bobby just believes in his skill set and believes that he can take that skill set and do some things with it, which I'm sure he would feel if he had KJ, if he had any other quarterback. I think he would tailor his offense around it. But I think those two have a legitimate relationship. And so that's what gives me a little bit of confidence. And ultimately, the context matters. And so for a lot of people who are like, well, Taylen's going to be good because of X, Y, and Z, sure, you can talk me into the X, Y, and Z. But again, when we come back to this list and the expectations, and I'm sure that coach that you read that quote from, Curtis, was referencing the fact that he's looking at Taylen's numbers and he's like, this guy, like, this is the guy they're putting all their chips in their basket, which, by the way, we all said the same thing in January when Taylen committed. We were like, oh, this is the quarterback they went out and got. Okay. And then we met Taylen. We got to spend some time with them. We've seen it play out this offseason, and we're more optimistic than we were then. But I don't blame national folks for kind of having some questions. And frankly, guys, I know you're not going to like hearing this, fans, but when you're coming off of a 4-8 season where your program is seemingly on the brink of collapse, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And that's fine. Like, I don't think it really, like, none of this that we're talking about matters, So it's like, why does it really matter if the national media is crowning you or not? Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't really understand why there's such a fizzy about this,
Yeah, it's the dog days, brother. And that's just where we're at this point. You can tell just by the chat every day that people are tired of talking about it, and they want to have a sample size to actually be able to look at and evaluate. We're getting there. Just a few days away.
Yeah.
This is the grind right now,
Dude, it is. And when you talked about, Andrew, the brink of collapse, I started trying to think of, like, has there been a time in Razorback history, at least in time I've been alive, where you were on the brink of a collapse, or you were in that time where it was like, okay, do or die, and you actually came through? Like, you actually had a good year. And I think the only time I can remember that was actually in 2006. The Darren McFadden year, because people may not remember. They remember that 10-win season, winning the SEC. Folks, Arkansas was picked to finish 6th in the SEC West that year. 6th. They had come off back-to-back losing seasons, which, fun fact, Houston Nutt is the only coach of any sport at the University of Arkansas to have back-to-back losing seasons and keep their job. Fun fact. But he did. But you had Malzahn, you had Mustaine. The excitement was there because of that. But to me, that's the only time where it was like, all right, do or die, you better come through. And you did. Well, why did they? Because they had a guy named Darren freaking McFadden. Like, do you have that on this team? No, you don't have a Darren McFadden. So that's what, again, looking at it from the objective perspective, it's like, that's why people are looking at you. It's like, why would we believe in you? why would we pick you guys to finish higher than 14th in the SEC? Why would we pick Taylen Green to be this great thing. Because I guarantee you, because I think what I saw was Dylan Gabriel's at number 2 on this list, who was transferred from Oklahoma, is now at Oregon. I kind of believe that if Arkansas had gotten Dylan Gabriel, I probably would be pretty high up on the list because he had been a proven guy at Oklahoma. It's just as simple as that. Just as simple as that.
Would he be number 2 though?
No,
he
wouldn't be number two.
He would be number 2. No, he would be
either.
I think it would be top 10 though. I really do. I don't think he'd be number 2 though. Just because,
frankly,
maybe top
KJ
10.
wouldn't be 16 on this list if he stayed at Arkansas.
True.
I really don't think he
I
would.
agree with
I think him getting a new change of scenery and going to Gus Malzahn is part of why nationally people are kind of like, oh, I'll see what he has to say. But given how it played out last year, like, just kind of is what it is. But I don't know. I mean, we've seen this happen a lot where you have to go out there like this time of year when you're trying to forecast, who's going to be good, who's going to do that. We all look at the same things, like what you've done for me lately, the returning starters, and it's a show me league. And I don't understand why anybody expected Arkansas to be like getting a ton of buzz this time of year when they haven't shown anything, which is fine. And it's like, that it'll change quickly. But yeah, I don't know. I was very not surprised by the list, but it seems like everyone else was.
Yeah. Well, just to round out the top 10 here, Shedeur Sanders was number 3. So for Colorado, then you had Quinn Ewers of Texas, number 4. Number 5, Jackson Dart of Ole Miss. Number 6, Jalen Milroe of Alabama. Noah Fifita, I hope I'm saying that name right, from Arizona. Garrett Green from West. Yeah, he is. Well, West Virginia. Garrett Green's number 8. Preston Stone at SMU, and number 10 is Brady Cook from Missouri. And you know what else is fun for Razorback fans? You're going to be playing how many of that? 1, 2, 3 of those top 10 quarterbacks. Possibly could have been all 5, but you're not playing Alabama or Georgia for like the first time ever. So, yeah, I don't have any problems with the top 10, and I don't see anybody else. In fact, it's funny. Connor Wegman is number 12 on this list from Texas A&M, the quarterback.
Product.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe him and Taylen switch spots a little bit there too. But
we'll get an up close look at Preston Stone this weekend, week 0 at SMU, right? Yes,
we will. Among some other quarterbacks too, and some other good teams. It's going to be fun too. So, man, I can't wait. All right, let's go ahead and get into the chat. It seems like it's pretty lively today. I can't imagine why. We got more arguments going on and everything. Let's see. This comes from Lathan. He's like, I'm calling Taylen, I think is what he means. Taylen Green, a top 25 quarterback by the end of the season. The ranking doesn't mean much because he hasn't played an SEC game or has played under Petrino yet. So, okay.
That's right. He has not played at the SEC level yet.
Yep. I agree. And
you're also correct in saying the ranking doesn't mean much because that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody that's arguing in the chat right now needs to go to the Arkansas men's basketball Twitter page and watch 41 seconds of Nelly Davis making threes that they just put out. Yeah. I think it would make everybody feel a little bit better. Take a deep breath and then come back to us.
I kind of want to watch that now. Can we just end the show and then just watch it? It'd be probably a lot more. It gives me a little bit more excitement for a season coming up, at least. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Also, hey, look, it's Stripiest. He's back. I guess he's got 2 back-to-back days where he can watch the live stream. It says, I don't love this list. Just so hard to rank 70 quarterbacks with different offensive lines and OCs. Just not sure you can make an accurate list due to the volume of variables.
You'd love it if Taylen Green was ranked number 1.
Yeah. Because if he was number 1, dude, they would have like Razorback football Twitter account would have a graphic ready to roll as soon as that list came out.
I've been thinking about this while we've been sitting here. I think the reason why everyone's so mad is because everyone wants life to be as simple as you just go to people for information, you go to things, and you want it to be 100% no matter what. That's why they listen to this show. They have this guys that we're going to provide them with exactly what's going to happen. And so they really hate it when I go to PFF and they got it wrong. Oh, damn. Like, what the heck? I can't trust PFF. Well, I'm going to go to ESPN. Oh, they got it wrong. Can't trust them. Oh, I'm going to 24/7. And it's like, guys, it's just the off season. We're just trying to do what we got to do here, man.
It's fun. It's fun to discuss. It's kind of like whenever I see articles written, if Arkansas had a commitment, it's like, 5-star player committed. Well, he's a 5-star on ESPN, but nowhere else. But that's the only time that they're ever going to mention the ESPN rankings because it's like whatever he's highest in, so we're listing.
Has anyone ever ranked anything and like not gotten pushback from it? Like, has anyone ever ranked a top 5, top 10, anything? And then people like just been like, fair.
No, no, not once.
Right.
I think
when you have 70 from 70 different programs. It's like, dude, there's just no way.
I think the closest I ever even got to where people actually did not get mad was when it was such the smallest list. It was like the top 3 running backs in Razorback history, and everyone was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty good." I mean, yeah, because it's like it's pretty obvious. It's kind of the same thing with like the top 2 or 3 Razorback basketball players of all time. You know, as long as you have a certain amount of players or a certain type of players in there, it's going to be good. Shout out to Hunter donating to the cause. Always appreciative of him. He says, I got to say, it's kind of ironic that Coach Nutt came from Boise State in 98 and we had a great season. Now Taylen's coming in over from Boise State with a greater OC to guide him. Well, I mean, I get it, but I don't think there's any correlation there.
You want to know what's also ironic? Gus Malzahn was at Arkansas in 2006 when they went from 5-7, or was it 4-8 or 4-7?
4-7, yeah.
4-7 to 10-2. He was also at Auburn in 2013 when they went from 3-9 to 11-1 and went to the national title game. Is Gus Malzahn the secret juice?
You know what? That makes sense to me. Can't argue that logic.
To a sharp turnaround.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing too, is like that going back to also maybe with the Boise State connection, Houston Nutt went 6-5. You know, wasn't great at Boise State in his 1 year there. So Taylen Green didn't have great numbers either. But look what happened. So yeah, that's just the key to it all. Kingsley, our guy at Kingsley says, Tay can get a lot better playing in the SEC. He also could get a lot worse objectively. But if you're in here saying he can't get any better here, you're tripping. So, okay, I'd agree with that too.
Context matters, man. It just does.
Yeah. I guess Zach wanted to know if Curtis fell asleep. So
almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching the basketball video. Sometimes when you two guys get into your remember when conversations from 17 years ago, I just zone out and I wait until I hear my name and I chime back in.
What are you remembering when?
Remember when we were on the brink of collapse, and it's 1997 week 8. It was 14-10 with 3 minutes and 41 seconds left in the first quarter, and I was eating a bag of Doritos at a Casey's, and and I just zone out sometimes. That's all.
Well, hey,
I guess I missed that one.
Casey's didn't even exist back then in Arkansas. Okay, Curtis. So let's just
y'all would know.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, it's the member berries. You got to feed the member berries to the fan base on occasion. Let's see. Also, okay, so here's S. Jones saying, he's like, okay, so you guys have decided it. No sense in watching your vids anymore because we're going to suck even before we start. I'll go back to watching games and skip the commentary.
Cool. See ya.
Man, I'm telling you.
What did we decide?
I don't know. I guess
we were like, yeah, he's low on this list. Maybe he'll finish higher. Who knows? We'll see. Man. I was like, they called it. They called it.
It's over. Yeah, we are. Because I mean, even in our season predictions, we said, hey, 0-12. 0-12 the entire time. Don't even play the games.
We'll find out for sure later tonight, even though we do have the story up. Go check that out.
Yep, absolutely. And then Timothy also says, love the show, guys. Can't wait for the season. I believe this team will make an impact this year. Any predictions on the score Thursday? You're going to have to wait. Or you can see the
go to InsideArkansas.com where our season predictions are, and we have the score on there. So
we did do that.
Mm-hmm. Which I almost, when I was writing it up, I almost didn't, because I was like, I don't know. I feel like every time it's already tough enough when people are going to hold you to your accuracy on the picks of wins and losses. But when you have to put the scores in there, if Arkansas does not beat UAPB by 40 points, you're going to be like, you said they were going to win by 40. They only won by 20. Like, people are just going to hold it. But yes, we got our predictions and everything there too. So just check that out. Make it easy on yourselves. Check it out at InsideArkansas.com. Okay, so let's see. We'll go ahead and get into your Razorback update. No, I can't say that. Sorry. Your Arkansas update. I don't need the U of A coming after me for it. It's presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owner insurance. Yeah, securing what matters the most. Yeah, so for your Arkansas update, we talked about Taylen Green being ranked there too, and we also had discussed just about the offense and the quarterback situation in general. But just to give everybody an idea of what kind of the schedule is going to be looking like for Razorback football, because again, next week is game week, and we're going to get a chance to hear from Sam Pittman on Monday, and then a few players. But that's pretty much going to be it until the game. I mean, so as far as I'm not saying like right now is the end of it. I think Sam Pittman, whenever he meets with the media on Monday, will be, but it's kind of to the point now where it's like, all right, we know all we know. We got all we got. So until the game gets going and gets played, this is about the extent of what it's going to be like. So
no doubt, man. And we're going to have to take Sam Pittman's word for everything because practice has been shut down for everyone. So whatever he says on injuries, it's true. Don't get mad at us if we talk about it or write about it and it's not true. All we can go off is what that man says at this point. So
yeah. Well, let me ask
Sam Pittman. He's famously very reliable on injury information.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a leg, or he's got a shoulder. That's what we're going to get. But let me ask you guys. So just we want everybody healthy, but of the 22 predictable starters that we know, how many of those 22 do you actually think will start against UAPB? As in not being held out for injury. Like how many of those 22 guys do you think are going to start?
21?
I think 21 as well, right? I mean, because outside of Kudus, is there anybody like on the defensive side? Oh, like I guess Armstrong, Broden, but
yeah,
I think they're both they're going to play.
Yeah,
I wonder. I guess it depends. Are we projecting Junkaj as a starter or no? Because I don't know if he starts or not.
We can say he's not a starter because him and Nico are pretty much the same anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to really know. Like, okay, you got 22 starters, but there's going to be about 30 players playing. You know what I'm saying? Like significant time. So, but yeah, as far as just the guys that. If we were to write up our starting lineup right now, like, would you guys have Junkaj as a starter, like right now, or would you probably have him as a guy coming in?
That's tough. I'd probably lean Nico right now.
Yeah,
just because
Junkaj missed right. He missed like 10 days of camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Junkaj eventually will find a role and maybe even start them, majority of the season. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. But that is going to be fascinating as far as I hate doing this because I know it's probably not going to happen this way. But like, how long do they keep the starters in if they're just pummeling UAPB? You know what I'm saying? Like, how long do they do that? And who's the first starter they pull? Is it, hey, Taylen Green, you're out as soon as possible, but then they leave in some other starters? Like, that's going to be pretty fascinating how they handle it.
It'll be longer than any of us want it to be before they start pulling guys, I'd imagine. Because you know what I mean? Like, it could be, 31-0 at halftime, and you're like, okay, get him out. Or, whatever, give him the first series and then get him out. And that just won't be the case. I don't know I bet they start rotating out, guys on defense first and then maybe some skill position guys. But it's usually, I guess they do wholesale things on the offensive line late in games. Mm-hmm. We saw that last year a little bit with Western Carolina, didn't we?
It took them a long time to get there, though.
A while, man. Yeah.
Because I kept thinking that and again, I could be misremembering. I kept thinking that they were trying to establish the run. Like they kept trying to do that. And then when they couldn't, they're like, all right, we need to just get everybody out. We can't do this. Mm-hmm. But no, I'll just be honest. Either way, if I see Taylen Green is playing in the fourth quarter, I'm pissed. Because that either means one, he's in too long, or two, the game's too close. So either way, I think Taylen Green does not need to be playing into the fourth quarter, and if he is, it's a problem. So,
well, you picked the final score to be like 17-13, so
that's right. Yep.
I mean, it's gonna be tough to get him out of there. And that's
I know. Yeah, I've actually picked Arkansas to win in overtime with a safety. So it's
next overtime 2-point conversion. You had them get a stop there. I think that's
had them getting a huge offensive or a huge defensive stop there, stopping a UAPB's quarterback from running it in. Yeah.
Do they announce captains today? Does that usually happen now?
Is today Friday? I feel like it's whenever they do the mock game, which was yesterday.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything, so I bet it'll either be today or tomorrow.
Ooh, let's do a fun game of who's going to be the captains. Who you guys predicting the captains are going to be?
Taylen Green, Landon Jackson.
Easy.
Let's see.
Does Armstrong become one because they did take him to media days? Is that kind of a good indicator?
I don't know.
Maybe one of the linemen.
The line might have one.
Probably Braun, I would think. Or Carmona.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Carmona and Braun, I feel like will have a chance. I think Hudson Clark's going to have a chance.
I think so too. Believe it or not.
No, I think he's definitely going to have a chance. I mean, he's been on the team for 9 years, bro. Like, you got to
who else on the defense besides Jackson? You know, if it's not
nobody
Clark,
at linebacker.
No.
Jaden Johnson, extension of the coaching staff.
Yeah, I don't think Jaden Johnson's getting the nod, but I could be wrong. Like Jalen Braxton's too young, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe someone on the D, like Eric Gregory, Cam Ball. Like those are guys that have a chance, but it's like
I could see Eric Gregory getting that.
And who was it? Travis Williams that said that Junkaj was leading. It's like apparently Arkansas's D-line leadership is just
through the roof.
Remember when Cam Little was captain?
Yeah,
that was awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Could be Devin Bell. Sam loves him, man.
Because what was the phrase that he used when describing him? Like when he just changed the answer to bring him up.
That Devin Bell, man.
Yeah,
he can kick the ball now.
He can kick that ball.
He can kick the ball now. But yeah, it's no offense to Cam Little, but man, I don't know about having a special teams player as a captain. That's just kind of weird. Although Arkansas does have a weird, and I'm sure it's like this everywhere, but I think ever since Sam Pittman's been there, they've had a captain that's transferred out the next year. So never had that. I think because they had Joe Fouché was a captain and he bounced out, and then you had Jalen Catalon, a captain, he bounced out. So yeah, a few guys bouncing out. Sounds like these guys are saying the Hogs won't win a single game.
Sounds like you ain't listening,
dude. I really like. There's a lot of times where we'll be talking, and I'm like, man, this is sound. We're being a little optimistic, and then I'll look over to the comments, and they're like, so we're firing Sam week 2, huh? It's like what?
Man.
Do we need to do like just a dedicated like 4 straight minutes of positivity here on the show, like of just
what's crazy,
sunshine
John?
Pumping.
I've tried. There's been multiple times, like over the last 10 days, where I've gone out of my way where I'm like, I'm going to be nice here. I'm going to be nice and like really try and frame this in a positive light. And they still yell at me every time.
No, I guess so, man. I guess so. You know what? Let's get some music in here too. And like,
there we go. And we understand that not everyone listens from start to finish on this show. So you might see a title and feel some type of way about it, or you hop in at a certain point and you hear a statement and you don't really get the full context. We still love you though, and we appreciate the listen.
Oh yeah, we always appreciate it.
Speaking with that music just really was soothing.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that great though? Like that's why I kept playing. I was trying to turn it down enough. I'm like, Curtis, keep going, man.
Yeah, like that sounded like a legit movie ending voiceover work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never ended up finding the body, but we found something else. Friends along the way, like.
I was like, dude. As soon as people start ripping us, I was gonna be like, we got to play some happy music here. Say, listen, guys. The Razorbacks can go 9-3. 9-3 is possible. All they got to do is they got to play their best every game. They have the talent, they have the coaching, they have the fan base and the support, they have the energy. This team can be great. You can be great. We Razorback can be great.
We don't need you to be anything other than yourself. That's all we need. I don't care about end of the year record. I don't care about anything. 1-0. You can't go undefeated if you don't start 1-0. That's why right now, Andrew Ellis, people say I'm a hater. I am hereby guaranteeing Arkansas starts the season 1-0. And that's all I can give you. I can't predict, who's going to win the presidential election. I can't predict where the world's going to be in 10 years, but I can predict the next game on the schedule. Arkansas Razorbacks 1-0, first reported by Andrew Ellis. So if you see people talking afterwards saying Arkansas won their week 1 game, be sure to say first reported by Andrew Ellis.
Hey, buddy, where there's a will or a Bobby Petrino, there's a way.
That's right. Just believe. That's all you got to do, folks, is just believe. Have faith in your team. I feel like I'm speaking like Tom Rinaldi here, but just believe. That's all you need to do. And believe that this team's going to be great, and they will be. Because that's all it takes in football. It's just your belief. So, is that good enough? Did we cover the positivity now? Can we go back to being somewhat objective?
Taylen Green, top 45 Power 5 quarterback by the end of the year. I'm calling it now. Top 45. Power 5, by the way.
It's a good way. It's a good way to end it. So, okay, there you go. So anybody who was all upset about our lack of happiness, there you go.
This is my favorite few minutes that we've ever had together right there.
Dude.
Ever?
Ever.
Like on the show, or you mean like in life?
Ever.
I don't know what that says something great about this show or something terrible about me and Andrew, but
no, that was just how much this moment meant to me.
I was gonna say we spent a lot of time together. I feel like there's got to be a better one.
Yeah. Hey, well, listen, I'll give $1 to either of you if you can name that song that was playing and what movie it was from.
I can't remember the name of the song, but I know the song. I almost know the lyrics, I feel like, but I can't tell you the movie.
I heard it in an elevator recently.
Oh, no, it's
in a lot of movies though, right?
No, just it's the soundtrack for one movie. It's the movie called Free Willy, and it was Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah, Michael Jackson's on that track, right?
That was his song. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Free Willy, dude, that was a great movie.
It was, man. It really was.
It was.
I want to pull up Eureka Strings comment so bad, but we can't have that word on the stream twice in a row.
Oh God. Oh yeah. See, we can't do that. Yeah.
Ejected.
Yeah. That's We'll just read it. We got ejected talk yesterday, and we got church day. I can't even read it apparently without saying. Can't wait for next week. We'll tune in. And then Dalton said, "Well, you see, here Dalton can be the same thing." He's like, "Hey, so only yesterday we almost got an X-rated show, and today we're having a sermon." The duality of man.
Oh man, we need a game.
Yeah, no, we need a game bad, dude. We're playing Free Willy tracks, bro. Dude. We need a game,
dude. Like imagine if this game was on a Saturday instead of Thursday. We'd be waiting still over a week. Like it'd be so terrible. It'd be so rough.
All right.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Let's get back to brass tacks here. Let's start, talking about the real stuff and what people really want to know about and everything. Okay, so where is it at? I wanted to bring it up. Guess we can do that too. And let's talk a little college football for what's going into the weekend. We can do that. All right. So some good games, right? Because any game is a good game when it comes to college football. To be honest, but we got week 0 matchups.
Yes,
a few of them happening that are in the top 25 even. So let me see if I can do this. Because what's the first game is not until Saturday, or is there a game actually tonight?
Saturday at 11, right?
Dublin boys.
That's right. Okay, I do remember that now. See if I can get these games to pull up. It's not there yet, but that's okay. All right. So, anyways, the big game, of course, ESPN, 11 a.m. It's going to be in Dublin, Ireland, and it's Florida State at Georgia Tech, which I love how they put the @ sign still in there because it's like, I guess Georgia Tech got the home jersey, so that's why they're there. But this one's going to be on ESPN, and Florida State, according to Bet Saracen's, favored by 10. So how are we feeling about that game?
Not in Haynes King's world.
Yes, that guy is still playing.
How about who would have ever thought that DJ Uiagalelei versus Haynes King would be the headline matchup of week 0 in 2024?
And that those two schools would be the schools that it would be
Florida State and Georgia, an ACC battle.
Dude, yeah. And it's so crazy because I wish I should have read more about like the story behind this game of why they're doing it in Ireland. I know that the NFL, they've done football games in various places. And in college football, I think was Notre Dame played there last year, if I'm not mistaken.
They played there before for sure.
Yeah. So it's like, I get that because, hey, it's the Irish. That's what their names is. But then it's like, well, we still want games. Let's just do the Seminoles, which I'm sure, the Seminoles are really big over there in Ireland, and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and have them play out. So I don't know. Do you guys know the story behind why they're playing in Ireland? Or is it just for fun?
I have no idea.
Maybe the fans in Dublin really enjoyed the Notre Dame game because the NFL's been doing London games now, and I know that like every year they do it, it gets kind of bigger and bigger. Maybe the people of Ireland were just like clamoring for it. They were like, "Yo, bring someone else back here. We need more college football," which I can relate to because I need more college football in my life. So yeah, the good folk, if I can get college football in my life, the good folks of Dublin, Ireland. I wonder if Conor McGregor will be there. You think they're sending the game day crew?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, it's on ESPN, and it's by far the most notable matchup. They can't send Lee Corso over there.
No,
they can't. They're not sending him to like down the street. Like most of the time, he's in the remote truck or whatever.
Is he back this year?
Of course. They need to. And listen, I'm going to be that guy. They need to get rid of College Game Day when he is no longer doing it. It's just not.
Just do something different.
Yeah, just do
Same
something.
thing. Call it something different. Yeah,
that's right. Because it's just it's like him. It was him and Herb Street are obviously there, and Herb Street will still be there. But dude, it's not going to be College Game Day without Lee Corso.
I really felt like I was going to pretty confidently take Florida State to cover in this game until Andrew said taking Georgia Tech straight up, and that's all it took for him to talk me into it. So. But Haynes King threw 15 interceptions last year. That's a lot, but he threw for 26 touchdowns and he rushed for over 700 yards and he threw for over 2,700. He's, made a nice little career for himself. Georgia Tech. I'm proud of him. Happy for him.
He has. I forgot Georgia Tech's coach's name, but he had I think it was his first year there last year.
Yeah, and they got out of that triple option nonsense.
And I think they like that coach a lot. I mean, they were better than people thought they were going to be last year. Obviously Haynes King. I think I saw some stat that was like it was like him and two other quarterbacks in the last 5 years have thrown for 25, run for 5, and had the yardage that he had or something like that. It was like basically him and Jaden Daniels were the list. What's interesting about this game is the line. You said it's at 10, John. It started at like 13.5, 14, depending on where you look. Yeah. And it's been steadily trickling down, which line movement can always mean a bunch of different things, but it does seem like the Sharks are on Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, because when that happens, I'm going to be honest. When that happens, I am always more apt to go the other direction. I'm going to take Florida State in this. It's whenever that happens, I know the variable of them being in Ireland, like who knows what in the world's going to go on and how that's going to go for either team, how they're going to handle being in, I don't know how many different hours of a time zone, but from Eastern time zone to that and, getting used to that. I don't know. And it's because I guess if it's at 11 a.m., it's probably 6 p.m., 7 p.m. over there locally.
Yeah. Something like that.
So I don't know. I'm still going to take Florida State.
Sign me up for the DJU redemption tour too. Just didn't work out at Clemson. And then you go to Oregon State and you just kind of reignite your career as a Beaver. And, then you come back to where it all began in the ACC and you got a chance to prove that you're the type of quarterback that can win that league and carry a team to the college football playoff. And I'm rooting for him, man.
It's interesting because Florida State, obviously went 12-0 last year, was undefeated, and everyone was like, oh, should have made the playoff. Then you lose 63-3 to Georgia. But, they had such a special season a year ago, and they're replacing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like historically, I mentioned how people always do the returning starters game. That's like back in the day, that's how we viewed everything. We were like, who has more returning starters? That's how you do. And so sometimes I feel like when teams are replacing a lot, they have a new quarterback and there's some uncertainty. We all just kind of assume they're going to be way worse, and they'll almost certainly be way worse than the 12-0 season they had last year. But I think that sometimes can be dangerous where you're just like, oh yeah, like they have to replace their guys with more 5-star guys. And so these guys are going to suck. People do that with Bama a lot. Anytime Bama's not replacing a ton, that's when they get you. That's when they're nasty. So I'll be very interested. I mean, you'd imagine Florida State has the talent advantage. Do they have the quarterback advantage? I feel like it's pretty close, frankly. I think both these quarterbacks are interesting. Haynes King's a little bit more of a runner. It's going to be a fun game. It should be a fun game. And so I can't wait to watch it, but I just like the 10-point cushion there.
DJU, he was right behind KJ Jefferson on that list we were looking at 17th. Right. I don't remember where the heck Haynes King was, but yeah, it's fascinating, man. It really is. I'm looking forward to watching, future Razorback coach Rhett Lashley in action.
Yeah, they're pretty big favorite. What are they, 25-point favorites?
Yeah, I guess are they playing Nevada? I guess they're really bad. Or
by the way, Haynes King is 25th on this list. So
really, wow,
2 top 25 quarterbacks to open the season. How about that?
Okay,
That's right. Yeah, and like I said, when you told me that Haynes King's still playing, I was like, is Tate Martell still around? Because wasn't he the quarterback that went to 5 different schools? And coming out of high school, he committed to 4 different schools. Like that dude was not making up his mind very well on anything. So, okay. So yeah, we got that game. Dude, we got a barn burner here on Fox Sports 1 at 3:00 on Saturday, tomorrow, between Montana State going on the road against New Mexico, the Lobos. Right, they're the Lobos, right? Yeah. New Mexico State's the Aggies. That's right. Okay, so this one's going to be in Albuquerque, and here's what's crazy: Montana State is favored by 13.5 points, according to Bet Saracen. So you see, like, if you just look at the name, you're like, oh, Montana State at New Mexico. Okay, that's probably good. No, Montana State on the road in Albuquerque is favored by 2 scores.
I thought it was a typo, frankly. Like when I was looking at it, because I was looking on the ESPN app, and ESPN has the FPI that does like the little like projection, gives you a X amount of chance to win. And they have New Mexico, the ESPN FPI has like 68% chance to win. So I don't know if the ESPN FPI just isn't familiar with FCS football, like hasn't really done it. But so when I saw that, I was like, oh, this must be a typo. Like New Mexico is probably favored by 13 here. And then I looked into it. Montana State is projected as the number 4 FCS team. They went 8-4 last year, but like all their losses were to Montana, who's always good, South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Like they lost to the heavy hitters. And so I think they're viewed as one of the better FCS teams. New Mexico's coming off 4-8 year. They're viewed as one of the worst FBS teams. This is kind of one of those games of like, who would win, the best FCS team or the worst FBS? We're going to find out. For me, guys, I don't know how you feel. If you're an FBS team playing an FCS team at home and we're giving you 2 touchdowns worth of cushion, you better cover. You better like have some respect for your program and cover.
Heard that.
Man.
John, you remember the New Mexico State Aggie mascot when we were in Buffalo?
I remember it was something weird.
It was straight up cowboy. He was gunslinging, quick to the draw, had the mustache.
He was a real man, like a real person.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just like, so when he walks in with those pistols, people are like the security's like, okay, buddy, we're going to really have to make sure that if you're coming in here with those, I'm sure you guys as a kid had the little, like this, the revolver that you could put the little paper thing in that would make pops like it. It's like, is it one of those guns? And are you coming in with it? But dude just walking around with, some cattleman revolvers just ready to go to the OK Corral anytime he's ready.
No disrespect, but that made me almost as uncomfortable as yell leaders. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah. Yell leaders are going to kill you with other things. Just
Aggie mascots are weird, apparently. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. I guess so, man.
Yeah. Because I guess they can't figure out what they are. Like, it's like Aggies. Like, because what is an Aggie? Like, honestly, I'm honestly asking, what is an Aggie?
Guy who partakes in agriculture.
Ooh.
I guess it's farmers, right? Basically.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. So maybe not come up with Aggies. If you want to be a cowboy, don't be Aggies. Just be the Cowboys. Make it easy. Okay. So I got that one. Then SMU, now an ACC team, right? Power 5 team in the ACC. That's stupid.
They're going Power 5 quarterback, according to the list of PFF.
Yeah. And as mentioned, Rhett Lashley, former Razorback. I guess we can call him that. And as Curtis said, next head coach for Arkansas. Going on the road to Nevada. And that's going to be on CBS Sports Network at 7 p.m. And according to Bet Saracen, SMU heavy favorites in this one at 26 points.
Yeah, they're gonna roll, man. Rhett's the future. You better start believing it now. And for anyone who's thinking, and listen, that's right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Razorback flair on that team. So I think if you're gonna adopt a recently named Power Conference program, SMU might just need to be that one.
Do they
got Booker on the D line? Mm-hmm. They got TQ Jackson is no longer there, but he was there. Chad Morris. I mean the comparison.
Ben Hicks.
Yeah.
I mean,
man. Well, hey, I'm just like, if I am rooting for SMU, they just need to bring, now that NIL is a thing, they just need to bring back the Pony Express, dude. Just like get the government involved and just start like it was in the 80s and just start funding those players all the money in the world.
I mean, Muss is cheering for, because he's got ties to both schools, because obviously he spent a lot of time at Nevada, coach there, but SMU is the reason why he was able to go to USC.
It's true. And then whoever it was in his family that's a big booster at SMU. Remember when that was a rumor for a minute? He's definitely Nevada, though. I think.
I would think so.
He's rooting Nevada.
Yeah. Or he doesn't care, and we'll say he's watching it, but I don't know if he actually is. Now this one, man, this is fun because we talked about it earlier this week, but Delaware State that will stayed up in Delaware. It is a team that apparently was having problems by missing their flight to Hawaii, which, if you guys are geography majors, that, hey, Delaware and Hawaii are pretty far apart. So because of that fact, this game's going to be played at 11 o'clock at night, and Hawaii is a 40.5-point favorite.
I'm just glad they made it. I'm glad Delaware State made it. Was worried about them, was worried they wouldn't get that experience. But they got there, apparently, and they are going to play football. But, man, that's rough. Is Hawaii in their new stadium yet?
I don't know. Well, it's at the Clarence T.C. Ching Athletics Complex. So,
great. Yeah.
If that means anything to anybody.
So, did we get a definitive update, and we know that they made it there to Hawaii, and that they're all clear?
I have to guess they are.
I feel like it would be a story if they still weren't there in the games tomorrow.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I haven't seen anything else about it since that day when they missed their plane or whatever. But how much fun were those? I guess it was week 0 in the past, when they were playing Vanderbilt. Remember when Vanderbilt went over there? I remember watching that game. Oh yeah,
was that the game where Vanderbilt kicked the crap out of them?
Yeah.
Yes. With Mike Wright at quarterback, who I referenced, 2 Mike Wright references on the show. That's an all-time record. The reason I'm going to be betting Hawaii and cheering heavily for them, Timmy Chang. Y'all remember Timmy Chang when he played quarterback there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's in his 3rd year now as their head coach. They went 3-10 his first year. They went 5-8 last year. Why are they playing 13 games? Nobody knows. But I'm hoping they take that next step. I mean, my brain, I'm just hoping. I'm like, hey. I like whenever the alma mater, the guy goes back to his alma mater to try and rebuild it. I always love that. And weirdly enough, Vanderbilt had a guy in there that I forget, he's Clark Lee or something like that, who did not go as well for him. But I always cheer for the guy who goes back to his alma mater, especially when it's a young guy like Timmy Chang, who is a cool quarterback. And so I'm hoping that they can get to a bowl this year, and I'm hoping they get a resounding week 0 victory over Delaware State, who by all indications should have a lot of jet lag.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah, Hawaii, I guess. With first off, I didn't know they played 13 games, so that was a nice little nugget.
Nobody knows why.
Yeah, but also Hawaii and Boise State are the 2 teams that I really appreciate. Where if they are good enough to make it to a bowl game, it's almost always the bowl game that's in their home stadium. Mm-hmm. Because if Hawaii is good enough to make a bowl game, guess what? They're getting Hawaii. They're going to the Hawaii Bowl. And if Boise State is good enough to make a bowl game, they usually go to the Idaho Potato Bowl or whatever. So, yeah, they usually do that. Yeah, when you reference that was what Kingsley. Clark Lee's still at Vanderbilt, right?
Is he still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. They switched. The basketball coach changed. Stackhouse was out, and then what's his name came in.
Yeah, dude.
Well,
okay.
I'll cheer for Vanderbilt this year because I do like that. And I cheered for Clark Lee. When I watched that Hawaii game a couple years ago, I was like, dude, Vanderbilt's rolling. Hey, I did a little digging. Hawaii just played 13 games last year. They didn't go to a bowl. They weren't one of those exceptions where it's oh yeah, we're going to let y'all do this. They just played 13 games, one of which was a 35-28 loss against Vanderbilt, where I bet against them and they covered.
Well, they're only playing 12 this year, so I guess they got wise and decided not to do it.
Well, because they know they're going to a bowl game. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I'm not rooting for Vanderbilt and Clark Lee because Clark Lee at SEC Media Days refused to sit down with any of the Radio Row people because he was too busy. And I'm like, listen, man.
Really?
You're Vanderbilt, my man. Because here's the thing, Derek Mason, I will always love and respect Derek Mason because that dude at SEC Media Days, he went early, before his team, he was supposed to go later in the afternoon on front of the podium and everything. He came out that morning and was in just casual clothes and just knocked out radio interviews with anybody that wanted him. I'm like, I like you, man. That's a lot of respect. But
I respect that. I remember the last couple of years when Stackhouse would come to SEC basketball media days and nobody would have questions. He'd do his little opening statement or whatever, and it's okay, we're gonna open the floor for questions, and nobody had any.
See, that's dude. They need, we could spend a whole time talking about. They need to revamp SEC basketball media days, man. They need to do something about that.
Yeah, that whole it's weird, man. It's just one oversized room that houses everything. It's the SEC network set is right there. The players are being interviewed right there. The coach is at the podium. It's just weird. There's nowhere to go. It's crammed.
Yeah, I was like interviewing like Devo and Kamani or whenever they went, and like was just doing it like in front of a table that someone was working at. Like it was like so uncomfortable and awkward. But yeah, they now that you get, because that's the thing is they had, you know, the men's team one day and the women's teams the next day. That was 14. Okay, now you got 16. So you're telling me you're going to have 16 teams and coaches and players, all that in one day? Come on now. So he said we'd spend the whole time talking about that, but yeah.
By the way, guys, I have an important update.
Okay.
Clark Lee is still at Vanderbilt, but I just remembered why I thought he was gone. I hate that guy. Curtis, do you remember last year I kept betting on Vanderbilt because they started the year like 0-9 against the spread, and when they got to like 0-5, 0-6, I was like, I'm going to bet on them every week just because I was like, one day they're going to cover. They finished the year 1-11 against the spread and 2-10 overall. They finished, and so they've lost 10 straight games. They beat Hawaii by 7. They beat Alabama A&M and then lost 10 straight and only covered in one of those games. So and it was against Georgia. So
didn't you also have like the season over? I don't remember if it was 2.5 or 3.5.
It was 3.5, and they didn't even sniff it, bro. Did not even come close. They lost to Barry Odom and UNLV 40-37, and that essentially cost it for them.
Man,
shout out to Barry.
They only lost to Georgia by 17. They lost 37-20 against Georgia, but 47-6 against South Carolina. Like I don't know what Clark like Vanderbilt. I've tried to defend you, but no.
Get him out of there. By Beamer. That's tough.
Dude, like what? Hey, two of the three, at least on here, apparently hate Vanderbilt strictly because of Clark Lee, and you know I never thought that would be a thing, but it has become one. So,
will be in 2022. They went 5-7. In his second year, and I was like, "Yo, that's an improvement." And they went right back to 2-10.
Well, and speaking of, I want to bring this up because that's good for this comment from Pooh Bear DePlug. But he's like, "Who the heck picks our damn schedule?" Which I love that he said "heck," but then he said "damn" in the thing. So, but anyways, he says, "Why can't we ever play Vandy?" All right, my man. Arkansas did play Vanderbilt. I was bringing this up the other day with somebody. Do you guys want to know? It's like, oh, why can't we ever get an easy schedule? You know when you did? 2018 and 2019 was literally the easiest schedule that Arkansas could ever have. You played Colorado State as your big non-conference team, and those 2 years, your East team that you played, Vanderbilt and Kentucky. But you know what? You lost both of them because you had Chad Morris. So you played Vanderbilt back then. You still sucked. You still lost. That's why.
And the conference has realigned and rescheduled and like switched up everything. And so it's kind of like, you know, it's like, oh, every 3-4 years or whatever. But with two teams entering and they're redoing the schedule and all that, it's like, I don't even know. I don't remember the rotation at all anymore.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like they haven't brought it up as far as what like the actual rotation is going to be, but it was really absurd that you had a set schedule of 7 teams every year, and then you only had one rotating opponent. Like that was pretty ridiculous. Which is why I know it's different sport, but I'll always appreciate basketball because you play everybody. You don't do that in baseball. Don't do that in a lot of other sports, but in basketball, you play every single team. And
I still can't believe that SEC basketball didn't go to 20 games this year.
Yeah, like what's
really strange. I feel like that's inevitable. It's almost as inevitable as football going to 9.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're waiting on, but
in fact, I think 20 is even more like it because it's not like in 9 games you have all these, because that's I think the biggest issue with the SEC going to 9 games because you have games 8 years from now that have been scheduled in non-conference against big opponents. But in basketball, you don't have that at all. It's like just add who. I'd like to know if there's a coach or any coaches that are against adding 2 games to the SEC schedule. I want to know the reasons why. Like, why would you be against that?
I'd be interested to hear those too.
Yeah. I don't think we ever will, unless it's like an anonymous thing that we normally get. But yeah.
Basketball should be like the Big Ten and just start playing conference games in like early November. Like literally school will just start. Like the season will be like the 3rd game of the year, and you'll be like, oh, Wisconsin and Purdue, they're playing tonight. And like, what?
Yeah. Zach also says in the chat, he says, isn't it crazy those guys are playing in a different country and they aren't even the teams that are traveling the farthest distance in week 1? That's a great point, dude. Talking about Georgia Tech and Florida State going to Ireland is still not as far as what Delaware State has to go to Hawaii. So, or is he talking about a different team in week 1?
I guess it's got to be Delaware to Hawaii, right? Especially because you've also got the north-south issue there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would think so.
That's got. I don't know how long of a couple flights that is, but that's got to be a doozy, man.
And I'd also like to know, like, how much, because they're not flying private. I wouldn't think, like, how much would that cost to send the entire football team to Hawaii? Like, that has to be a large margin. Could be wrong, but
you can get a nonstop flight right now from JFK Airport, where they were flying out of, to Honolulu, starting at $503.
Easy,
not too bad.
Yeah. So what? Because we travel.
Considering it's a 3.5 day flight.
It says, wow, they have nonstop for those 10 hours and 40 minutes. That's not as bad as I thought it would be, though.
Delaware.
I would not do that.
Delaware might be a sneaky dog this week.
Dude, I could not handle that. I would hate if you tell me I have to be on a plane for double-digit hours at once. I can't handle that. Which I know that's probably why I haven't left the country in my life. Yeah, because Andrew says Delaware State's flight got delayed, and they're going to get Hawaii like 3 days later.
Hopefully they're there now.
Yeah. I mean, they play tomorrow, so I'd hope. But I'm rolling with Hawaii. They're going to take.
Man, could you imagine having that flight and landing Saturday morning there or whatever, and then having to play that night? Or
drunk.
Yeah, that'd be tough, man.
Well, the thing is I agree, but man, whoever decided, it's like in Delaware State, it's like, yeah, let's go to Hawaii. Like, I think it's always one of those things that sounds great. The idea sounds great, but then when you go through that trip of getting the whole football team there and how much it's going to cost, everyone's like, okay, we're never doing this again. Like, there was no reason for us to do that. We'll just go and play UMass instead or something like that, and travel a lot less of a distance. There was another comment. There's a lot of comments I always want to bring up, but I can't. Eureka Strings says it's just going to be fun to get a nice day drunk and watch some college football. That's true. That's true. You'll be able to do that tomorrow. And technically, you'll be able to do that next Saturday, too. And Sunday. Even Monday. Like,
you can always do it.
Yeah,
it's always an option.
Yeah. And I also love Caden's question here. He's like, what would y'all do if Arkansas lost to UAPB?
We would just start a stream exactly like this and not say a word.
Yep.
We just let you guys vent in the chat, and we would pull up the funniest ones.
Yep. I would go down to like Roosevelt Street in Little Rock and just see what happens to me. What would happen? I'd go down there to wherever it's the most dangerous part of Little Rock and just stand there on the corner and see what happens.
I'd get a desk job, like State Farm. I'd just start figuring it out.
Dude, you can always work at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They have an excellent corporate structure, and they give you tools to be your own boss.
Yeah, y'all see me whenever y'all needed a car in Northwest Arkansas.
Yep. Okay, so would you like the damage waiver with that? Like, yeah, just you could be that guy that's just trying to sell all that too. So, all right. So let's see. And we're moving fast. We got about 15 or so minutes here. I wanted to bring this up, and we can probably dive into it a little bit more in depth once we get closer around, but I know you talked about it, Curtis, and it made me think about we're talking about the Razorback football video, or the EA Sports college football video game, and our simulations that we put up on Inside Arkansas and how that went. I was curious if they ever did come out with the EA Sports college basketball game, which, man, I don't know if any of y'all played that 2010. Like, I think that was the last year.
Oh, of course.
Dude, that was such a good game because not only was it college basketball, but I remember one of the coolest things is that you could choose whether to be on the ESPN broadcast with Dickie V or the CBS broadcast with Gus Johnson and Bill Rafferty. Like, come on. That's so great.
It's crazy that they don't do that still.
I know.
Like, I don't understand. Because, I mean, especially with college football, how there's 19 different you got Fox, CBS, you got ESPN, ABC, like all that. That should definitely still be a thing.
Yeah, but they're just going to give it to whoever's paying the most money. I mean, is what it's going to be. But anyways, with if they were to do that, like and say, looking at the ratings for the Razorbacks and everything, I'd be curious what would be like the ratings and like the individual players, like who would be the highest rated player on Razorback basketball in this year?
Can't tell if you're doing a bit or not, John. I cannot tell if you're doing a bit right now. Curtis, are you hearing what I'm hearing?
I am. No, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing it for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. It hasn't gone out yet, though.
Exactly.
Okay. John, I kid you not, bro. We recorded this exact topic segment and everything, and it will be on the Locked On Razorbacks channel tonight at 7 p.m.
Okay, well, and full disclosure, I literally had no idea, so that was why I was bringing it up. But that's just great minds or whatever. Or actually, just I knew that would goes
It's
brought
actually
up.
insane minds. To be fair, like that's pretty wild.
It's crazy. Yeah, it is. But we can get into it without getting too deep into it.
Hear the full in-depth analysis on the Locked On Razorbacks Pod at the Palace edition later this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. No, we looked pretty deep into this because we were trying to be as fair and objective as you possibly can be given these situations. But Andrew, I had him go through and he looked up every player on the college football game that was rated above a 90. And there were 107 of them. And obviously there's way more football players than there are basketball players. I was able to go back and I found the March Madness 2006, and they had 10 players, only 10 players on that game that were rated over a 90 and 15 that were 88 or higher. So basically, if you want to be an 88 or higher back in the day, you had to be like an All-American caliber player. But yeah, we both agreed that, Nelly Davis, that just makes the most sense for him to be the highest rated guy. So to pick somebody to be over a 90 there, we went with him. Adu, another guy that was pretty high there. But we were talking about the freshmen because it was always really interesting. Like the guys who were built into the game, like the incoming freshmen who were on the game, that was one thing. And you had to be like Kevin Durant or something to get a super high rating on that game. But if you got in dynasty mode and you were recruiting, you get real excited and you'd sign a 5-star McDonald's All-American, and then he'd get to campus, he'd be like a 78 overall. And you're like, well, what the hell is this, man? He's not gonna be able to help me right away. So I do wonder how they would go about doing that. Would be interesting. But I think, we both agreed Arkansas would be up there just with the team and the talent and the Calipari factor and the stadium ratings.
Yeah.
Stadium ratings too, because they had Razorback Stadium, the 22nd toughest place to play on.
Dude, Bud Walton, again, I haven't listened to y'all's thing, but Bud Walton to me is top 5. And I'm not being biased. It's a top 5 place.
Yeah. We said top 3. So,
You know what I like?
Top 1, actually.
I like that on the college football video game, the one that 25. It's like a dynamic stadium pulse thing where it's not like if you're the number 3 stadium, it's not like every single game is going to be full crowd, that high of a rating. They'll also do like the stripe out things here and there. Like it's kind of different for every game, which I really appreciate. And so that would be the fun thing about Bud Walton is maybe early in the season you're playing, Oakland or whoever, not going to be peak Bud Walton, but like when Kentucky's in town, it's number 1. It's blaring on there. It's completely packed. But on the football game, they do the stripe out like every other week. Just not a thing. Like it doesn't happen that often.
No, it shouldn't. And also because again, I used to play all those sports games. I had one of the college basketball games on PlayStation 1, I think.
Yeah.
PS1. And what was cool about it is that was when Arkansas was I think they were number 16 going into the season. That's when they had Joe Johnson and everything on the game, and they were really good. And I remember they had somebody when they did the announcing of when the game starts and it's like Bud Walton. Again, you got to remember it's PlayStation 1, but this guy was just like, good evening and welcome to Bud Walton Arena and they even said the basketball palace of Mid-America. And they even had a guy go like, these are the Arkansas. It wasn't John George, but I was like, man, that was ahead of its time. That's when you really got a lot of the credit. But I'm curious though, could you guys, just random question, because I just looked it up. Could you name on the last college basketball video game that came out in 2010, can you name who the highest rated player for Arkansas was on that team?
Michael Washington.
Nope.
No.
It wasn't Michael Washington?
Nope.
Was it Courtney Fortson?
Nope.
So hold on, maybe I have my years mixed up.
No, you got the right years.
2010 video game was 09, right?
What's up?
So the 2010 video game would have been the 09-10 season, right?
Correct.
Maybe I'm chirping here.
I honestly thought at least one of y'all would get this.
Rodney Clark?
Boom.
Huh.
Rodney.
What was he? Do you know? 80 something.
He was, and again, this is I'm looking on a message board from 2009 here.
Okay.
I feel like I'm on Windows XP again. It says he was an 83.
Okay.
So
who else was on that team?
So I'm looking at the roster now. By the way, Courtney Fortson probably should have been, because he averaged 18, 6, and 5. Marshawn Powell was on that team. He was a sneaky one that, like, probably should have been.
Okay, now I remember this roster now. Yeah.
Yeah. Steph Welsh, Jamal Farmer, Julicius Nobles, Michael Sanchez. Come on, man.
Dude.
Brandon Mitchell.
That team finished below 500, didn't they?
Sure did.
Of always. Like, yeah. Did Brandon Mitchell was on that team? Like the quarterback, Brandon Mitchell?
He probably wasn't on the video game, but yeah, Brandon Mitchell, he averaged 1.3 and 1.3. He only played 4 games. He came back the next year and played a little bit more.
Which was Mike Anderson's first year.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember Brandon Mitchell posterized Terrence Henry from Ole Miss, and like Arkansas still lost the game. I remember in the student section, we all went nuts. We're like, oh my gosh, that was disgusting. You got posterized. If that's got to be one of the most like, yeah, it's got to be most humbling moments is when you get posterized by a quarterback that plays basketball. Like, yeah, that's got to be a humbling experience.
That's a tough one.
Like this guy literally hasn't practiced basketball like full time in years, and he comes in, he just dunks on you.
I had misremembered history, by the way. So Brandon Mitchell was on that team that I referenced, but it was his true freshman year, and he quit after that and went and played football, obviously. It was not until 2 or 3 years after where he came back and made his return and then averaged 3 and 2 where he posterized whoever.
Yeah, because I was looking at it too. You had Marcus Britt and Delvon Johnson. Man, Jeff Peterson, who was the Florida State transfer. So, yeah, that was, man, good times. Good times when.
A little group.
Yeah. I think that was.
Man, I miss those games. And it stinks too because, I mean, we're at the end of August now and we haven't heard anything about it. So like, they're not going to do it this year. Yeah. But gosh, man, you got to get it for next year. It's only right.
Yeah. I
like this question from Brett. Can the Razorbacks get on a college basketball game cover? That'd be awesome. Because obviously Darren McFadden back in the day was on NCAA 09.
Yeah, don't get me started on that crap.
But no, I think this is a cool one because I mean, think about it. Nelly Davis averages like 20 a game and leads Arkansas to a Final Four or whatever. They did a game next year.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
maybe Calipari's on it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he'd be a coach, but then if you look at what they did for the college football video game, though, they had current players on the cover because it's NIL now, so they probably get a current player.
Well, that's like, I mean, with a returning wing, Adut the Arrow that Andrew already has rated a 95 on the game, like he would be the cover guy for that.
Didn't have a 95. I had a 95. But I bet next year with college football they start doing a player, like just one player as a thing, because that's always like a fun announcement. And also there's a kind of a curse when it comes to video game cover athletes, especially with Madden. There was a crazy curse started by I guess Michael Vick is kind of the who like ushered that one in.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna bring up the thing when you talked about Darren McFadden being on the cover. I think I've mentioned this, but how pissed I was because that was the first year that they're like, oh, we're gonna have different players on different platforms. And if you had a PlayStation 3, which I had, I didn't get Darren McFadden. I got freaking Matt Ryan from Boston College. I was infuriated. I was like, that almost made me buy an Xbox. Almost.
Quarterback Factory, Boston College.
And then the year before that, we had freaking Jared Zabransky from Boise State. So I'm like, oh man, what a great run here. I got all these video game athletes, those guys. Golly, that was rough. So, hey, look at this. Judah's coming in. Appreciate the support and love, Judah. He says, how far do the Hogs go in the NCAA tournament? Look at that. We're already getting some basketball talk.
Sweet 16.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You're saying minimum, or that's like where it ends? Like that's where it ends.
That's where
that's minimum.
I'm not going to specify. I'm just going to say they will play in a Sweet 16 game. Maybe they'll win it. Maybe they'll lose it. I don't know, but they're going to go to Sweet 16.
I think they'll do enough in year one to make people shut up a little bit about the Coach Cal's lost it, whatever, like you'll win a couple games. They'll get to the second weekend. But I do think another year recruiting with, I think this is a roster that could have, like, you could see maybe one or two of those freshmen coming back. I could see a Big Z, like you could have some good retention and then another really good recruiting class, pick a guy or two out of the portal. I think next year could be when they have a really, really nasty roster. And this one's good now.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going to be really good, but I think year 2 is when they crack through and get that Final Four, baby.
Dude, all I want is just to get to the Sweet 16 minimum, only because you know that if they lose in the first round or whatever, those Kentucky fans, is they're going to be leaving their NIT game at Rupp. They're going to be so like, just, see what you're doing there. He told you wasn't going to win.
We lost to Robert Morris again.
Yeah, I'd say after they just dropped a game against Akron or something like that. Like, yeah, they're going to be, it's going to be so dumb. So I just want them to get to the Sweet 16 so they don't have to deal with that. Because I feel like that's, I mean, yeah, you want to go as far as you can, as far as you want. But if you go to the Sweet 16, there's some pride in that. Like, that's like okay, hey, Sweet 16 is a cool thing. It's got a title. You don't have a second round or anything.
Right.
I mean, up until a few years ago in my lifetime, I didn't even know Sweet 16 was literally even possible for Arkansas basketball. I was born in 97.
Oof.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
true.
Suck.
And yeah, Pooh Bear says for a complete rebuild, making the tournament would be fantastic. But it's not really a complete rebuild, though. It's weird because yeah, like everybody on last year's squad is gone besides Trev Brazil, but Coach Cal came. He said it a million times, like nothing's changed. He just moved headquarters, and so for DJ Wagner and Adu Thiero and Big Z, all guys who are going to be key contributors on that team, it's the same thing, just a different gym for those guys. And for Boogie Flan and Carter Knox and Billy Richmond, they were all committed to play for Cal. That hasn't changed. They're just doing it somewhere else. So yeah, there's a level of change there, but I really, and I get it, like technically you're not wrong at all, but from a standpoint of it being a complete rebuild, there's some nuance there that's just not the case in a lot of other places with kind of similar situations.
Well, it's not 1943, so it's like everyone's rebuilding their roster except for like a few teams here and there. It's like you look around the country outside of really like Bama, UConn, and even a couple others. It's like a lot of folks are like bringing in 4 new starters and 7 new rotation guys and stuff like that.
A complete rebuild. That's what Muss is doing at USC.
Well, that's what Arkansas has been doing for the last 4 years is rebuilding the roster every year.
Yeah, just rebuilding around Devo is what they've done like every single year. That's all that's happened. So, yeah. And
how would you feel? Sorry, can I get a question in, or are we done?
No, go ahead.
How would you guys feel, honestly, if Devo Davis gets the NCAA tournament with Oklahoma State and leads them on one of his magical March runs? I'd be a little salty about it. Like, I want success for Devo. I'd be a little salty about it. I'm not gonna lie.
It depends on what Arkansas does. If Arkansas gets bounced in the first round and I see Devo over there crying with the reporter again at midcourt, like, we figured it out, this team's struggling, and then he ends up like going to the Elite Eight, then yeah, I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm not going to be pissed at all. I think that'd be hilarious is what it would be. It would actually be very funny. And also like, it would if he went somewhere else, like Oklahoma State's a program where it's like, I don't really like feel anything towards them. So them making a Sweet 16 Elite Eight really just like doesn't mean much to me.
So if he was like Auburn or something, then yeah,
it'd be kind of funny to do like the March Devo memes and stuff like that. But I agree, John, it matters what Arkansas does. Like if Arkansas stinks and Devo's out, then I'd probably be like, oh wow, this sucks. But it would be very funny.
Yes, it would be. And I think like it would be really tough. Like if Oklahoma State and Arkansas played each other in the tournament and like what if it was in the Elite Eight, winner goes to the Final Four, and Devo's man,
Arkansas would win. That's what would happen.
Like that would be the thing. Like I guess it would probably feel a lot worse losing to a USC Must team than it would be a Devo Davis Oklahoma
100%.
State team.
Not even
but
close.
It's like
100%,
dude. Because if that happens, I still love Muss. I will hate him if that happens. Like I will do a 180 on my feeling towards Eric Musselman.
He'll take his shirt off. He'll be flexing so hard, dude. He would do he wouldn't even play in the Final Four game. Like they would just opt out of it and just start their victory lap parade then.
I don't even want to think about that. Like, would that be like of all the sports like doomsday scenarios, is that one of the worst ones to have your heart ripped out and just have to grill it up and eat it? Like that would be pretty up there as far as one of the worst.
It'd be high on the list, man.
Yeah,
it would be high up there.
The worst case scenario would be like your head coach getting in a motorcycle accident and then having a bad relationship, and then you lose to ULM the next year. I think that's the worst. That's the heart ripped out scenario.
But at least that happened early in a season where it was still uncertain and John L. Smith was a joke. This would happen where it's like you got Calipari. You got a team that's about to go to the Final Four, your first Final Four since 1995, and you lose to the dude that left you and left like in a weird and uncomfortable way for people. And to see him where it's not just a handshake, go to the locker room, but like you said, taking his shirt off, all that stuff that I defended him for. And I was like, I love that stuff. I'd be like, oh, I would hate it. I want to fight him. That's like
brutal, man.
Dude, I couldn't handle that. So no, let's not even think about that. Let's not even manifest that. Like, let's just cow. I don't even, you know what? My number one favorite thing of this basketball season would be if I don't even have to pay attention or care about what Muss and USC is doing, because I don't want them to be too good. I don't want them to do, it's great. Do over there. I want to focus here and what's great here. And
you can be on TV a lot.
Yeah.
Go 18-13 and have a respectable season, scrappy squad. Go ahead and do what you got to do.
Yeah, go over there and all that, and Eureka strings. Losing to Muss and USC would be my Joker origin story.
That's a good one.
that is a good one, and I think, dude, like, I'm hoping. What's be funny is I want to. Okay, let me take that back. I will pay attention to one thing about Muss. I want to see if he complains about the quick turnarounds in conference play. I want to see if that gets brought up over there at USC, because I don't know about their schedule or like anything, but
he was already talking about on that interview he did with Goodman that we were talking about yesterday. He kept mentioning the time zones and the travel and everything, and how they're doing all these like research studies to figure out how to handle that. And so he's already building that one in.
Let's say going to Piscataway, for a for a game, for a conference game, like
couldn't happen to a better guy,
Yeah. Like, I know Piscataway gets brought up as like the gold standard example, but it's like not just Piscataway. You're gonna have to go up there to Happy Valley or whatever Penn State's in. You're gonna have to go up there to freaking what's the city called? That's in where like Purdue's at. Is it
West Lafayette?
Yeah,
Lafayette.
Yeah, like whatever. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Like all those
in Illinois.
Yeah, all those places are going to be so far away, no matter what. So, but anyways, well, fellas, that's about it for us. So, final one for this Friday. Any things to end on? Any other things we missed?
Stay tuned for Monday's show. We're going to dive into the weeds of UAPB's depth chart and schemes.
Yep, we may even talk about the top 10 games for the Razorbacks this season in football.
Oh, yeah.
We may bring that up and dive into that too. So just be on the lookout. Yep. But hey, appreciate each and every one of you listening in, watching in to Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and also check out InsideArkansas.com for all the great written content that's getting put up each and every day. So for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.